U3 Schools website. This is the URL if you're interested in having a look. It's a fantastic website. Tons of programming information, not just Python, but many other types of programming languages. Pretty much every type of programming language. So, what's Python useful for? It's used a lot these days for server-side web dev. So JavaScript is obviously the more common front-end programming language. JavaScript's used in conjunction with HTML and CSS. The HTML is the layout of the page, the CSS is the styling, and JavaScript basically implements functionality and usability to web pages. Python's great for server-side web dev. So that means handling databases, fetching data once a user has clicked a link or wants to upload a file or download a file from a web server. Python is really handy for that. Software development, this is a very general term. Python's used in all types of programming. Software development is just kind of one size fits all, basically. Mathematics, Python is human readable. The syntax is quite simple and straightforward compared to C++, C#, a lot of the more complex languages. Syntactically complex languages, I should say. Python can be complex. It all just depends what you're doing with it. System scripting, with Python being so human readable, it's quite easy to write a quick script that you can implement. Maybe it's in your workplace. Maybe you need to automate something. That's this. Python can be used alongside software to create workflows. That feeds back into the system scripting. This basically means the same thing. Automation is the key word here to take away. Database systems, that again feeds back into web dev. Server-side language. There are some front-end frameworks for Python like Flask, but I would not recommend learning them. If you're interested in front-end dev and website development, that kind of thing, stick to JavaScript. Connect database systems, yes. Rapid prototyping, because it's quite simple to type Python. There isn't tons of syntax. So you can get a prototype together quite quickly if you have an idea. Getting Python code production ready takes a bit longer because it can be quite a... Once you basically scale a Python project to a large scale, it can be difficult to handle. With languages like C++, you're doing manual memory management and that kind of thing, and manual garbage collection for memory. So you have more fine-tuned control. Python is more used when you just want to get a project out the door, get a prototype written up as fast as possible, so you can show a client, or so you can just get something working as quickly as you can. So let me just skip a couple of these. So these are some arithmetic operators which are covered in the previous stream. More than, less than, quite simple, and the exclamation mark being not Python. Division, multiplication, subtraction, and addition. Modulus, which is obviously a mathematical operator. This is handy for when you need to find out if a number is odd or even, which you do have to do occasionally with Python. And then this is just a quick list of the assignment operators and the examples and what it actually means. So plus equals can be a confusing one. X plus equals 3 is equal to, meaning it's exactly the same as x is x plus 3. So one thing I wanted to cover today was the is operator. So I didn't cover this in the last one. We were just doing comparisons. So in this if statement from yesterday, if 5 is more than 3, or, covered the or keyword, or 5 is more than 10, print this, else print this. So this is a really cool keyword. Basically, or means if any of the following statements are true, then return true. That's the easiest way I can explain the or keyword in Python. So obviously 5 is more than 3, right? But is 5 more than 10? No. Only this is true. But because we're using or and not separate if statements, we're not doing if 5 is more than 3 and then another one, else if 5 is more than 10. We're just doing it all together within the if statement, and we're using the keyword or. If 5 is more than 3 or 5 is more than 10, so this is obviously true and this is obviously false, right? Let's see what it prints out. At least one of the statements is true, because it is the first one. Now the second one being false does not affect the first one. And a cool thing is that you can actually change around the order and the code will output exactly the same. At least one of the statements is true. So it doesn't matter which is which, it still returns true because of the or keyword. So that's a useful tool to know. A similar tool is the is keyword or the is operator. So this is used to test if two variables refer to the same object. If 1 is 2, we're going to print out 1 is 2. And then we've nestled the else statement. Else print 1 is not 2. 1 is not 2. So look, 1 is not 2. Why does it print out this way? Because we're using the is keyword and it's comparing the values directly of these two objects, and 1 and 2 are not the same. They don't refer to exactly the same data type. So let's try if 1 is 2, so let's do try this. And you'll see stays exactly the same. 1 is 1 because now these values are identical. The key that is keyword, it isn't used too often. I don't see it that often in code, but it's a very handy trick to have in your arsenal when you're learning Python. Great for comparing data types and seeing if two variables do actually refer to the same object or not. Okay, the is not operator, as you can imagine, it works very similarly to is. If 5 is not 5, print this. Else print 5 is 5. Excuse me. There we go. 5 is 5. Because obviously the values are exactly the same. So again, it isn't used that much. You won't see it too much in the real world of Python. Usually people just run loops or if statements to get the job done, rather than using these keywords is and is not. It can get kind of confusing when you have thousands of lines of code. And this is just another quick example. H equals 55, Z equals 55. So, as I explained last time, these are the variable names, right? See, it's a variable H. Same thing here, Z. Remember what I said about variables yesterday? They just store values. That's the best way to think about them. That's how I think about them as I learn more Python. So we're storing the value. It's a whole number, right? So, what's a whole number? It's an integer. It's the same here, same value. So you think this would throw an error because we are basically we're adding the same value to two different variables, but this can be done. We're using the is keyword. So if this is your if statement, even though it's quite short, normally it looks like look. Normally this is a bit easier to read, so we're using two keywords, if and is, right? Conditionals. If h is z, which it is, the values are exactly the same. Print h is z. Save the code, run it. H is z. Perfect. So let me just pull something up here. So I'm going to move on and just quickly cover, very briefly, libraries in Python. Libraries are one of the things that makes Python so powerful. And in the modern world of programming and software engineering, libraries are basically the backbone of a programming language. What is a library? So a library is basically just a load of code, a big library of code that someone has developed or a company or whatever, used to perform or used to help you with doing a certain task. There are thousands and thousands of libraries for Python. There are thousands of libraries for C++ and other languages too. But the libraries in Python are fantastic. So I'll just run through some extremely simple libraries. So what I'm going to do here, I'm a code editor, which I explained last time. I use VS Code. If anyone wants to know my settings in terms of color, theme, and icon pack, let me know and I can send them to you. So I'm staying in this same folder. I'm going to right click, add a new file, right? Call this whatever I want, but we need to make sure it has the right file type. Okay, so I'm going to call this testlib.py for Python. If you do .c, it's a C file, cpp for C++, C sharp, CS for C sharp, sorry, and thousands of other file types. But I will just be covering Python for the moment. So it's going to be a .py file. So, libraries, also referred to as libs in code, just because it's quicker. Just a shorthand version. So, right. In order to import a library to start using it, you must import it. So at the top of your code, we're going to type import and then the name of the file, the name of the library, sorry. So I'm going to run through one of the easiest libraries to use, and it's a really good starter library if you first want to get into using libraries, which you will need to do while learning Python. And they just make your life so much easier. I'm going to import random. Not ransom, random. Awesome. What does random do? Hover over it, you could see some of the things that it does. This is quite confusing. Basically, random is really handy for when you want to basically pull a random value out of a data set. So without a library like this, you would have to code this manually. It would take absolutely ages. And I really don't know why you would do it anyway, when you could just use a library. So using the random library here. So what can we do with random? How about let's make a little application. So develop a Python app. So we're going to write some code to do exactly this. Okay. We're going to write some Python code that's going to randomly select, using the random library that we've imported, from a predefined data set. And what's a data set? That could be anything. So, like the first lesson, I am going to do a list because I think lists are nice and easy to understand, quite straightforward in Python. So, why don't we use color list? Let's add some more colors to make this a bit more exciting. Chrome. Ooh. Add black. Orange. Yellow. Okay, that should be enough. So, what do we want to do? We can do the simplest version of it for now, I think. This will be our list that we want to pick a totally random value from, and the code is going to pick the value. I won't have to do any manual coding in order to say, oh, this time I want it to display blue, or this time orange, or this time red. It will be completely random. Well, as random as computers can be, which is another discussion on its own, but I won't get into that right now. So, we will do if color list. Actually, let me think. No, I won't do it this way. How shall I do this to explain it? We could try it just within a simple print statement. If we do the parentheses, using the print keyword, the print function I should say. So print random. So this is the library, this is the keyword random, right? Random dot choice, and you can see here as I hover over the code, choose a random element from a non-empty sequence. What's our sequence? Color list, right? We want to pick a random value from this. So we will do random.choice, and then we need to reopen a pair of brackets. Can look confusing, but this is the way it has to be done. From where? Color list, right? So let's have a go. Green. It's printed out green this time. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Run it again. Green. Run it again. Yellow. Black. Yellow. Orange. Green. Black. Chrome. Black. Green. Black. Green. 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 Blue. Red. Chrome. So as you can see, although it does seem like green was coming up quite a lot, it is random. Obviously, the more items that you have within the list, or whatever data set you're using, the more random the choice will be. So if there's only, let's say, what can we call this? Names list, right? Your mic. All right. These new hotkeys I've set up for VS Code take a while to get used to. We'll do Joe. Do Sam. Actually, we'll just leave it as Mike and Joe for now, so I can explain what I'm doing here. Here we go. So I want to replicate this code above in here. So named list, Mike, Joe. Because there's only two, random.choice, right? Open the brackets again from our names list. From this, green Joe, orange Mike, blue Mike, Mike, Joe. And if there's only one, just get rid of Joe. Obviously, the word Mike is going to show up each time. So the more you add in, the more theoretically random, the more variety of choice that you're going to get from the code printing out. So the main takeaway here is the power of libraries. The random library is very cool. It can be used in beginner projects, it can be used in high level projects. It just depends how far you want to take it. So, what shall we do? Let me just comment that out for now. Let's do something slightly more confusing just to end the video. Not confusing, but more complex. What shall we do? So, we'll do something similar. But what we can do is, let's say, move this down. Let's write a script to make a food selection from, we're going to do create a list with different food items in it, and then we're going to add a drinks as well. So food drink selection from predefined data sets. That's just the official way of saying from these lists that we're going to create. Cool. So let's make one list, right? We shall call it healthy. We'll leave the list empty for now. And we'll make another list. Junk food. These are just placeholder lists for now. I'll fill in the data in a minute. And then we'll do healthy drink. And junk drink. Cool. I just pop these next to each other like this so it's a bit more understandable. There we go. Right. So, healthy food, right? Let's pick some healthy foods. I don't know. Apple. Let's do kale. These are just examples. You could use whatever you want in these data sets. Apple, kale, do sweet corn. What's another healthy food? Pear. All I can think of is fruits at the moment. Let's do soup. Okay, healthy drink, right? Obviously water. Obviously these are strings because I'm putting them in quotation marks, double quotes, which I like to use Python. Remember, you need to keep it's best to keep consistent with quotes. So don't do this. Don't do double quotes for water and then do single quotes for tea. It can confuse the code later on and make things a bit more difficult to understand. Keep it consistent. You can use single quotes or double. I just prefer to use double. And it's easy to follow and keep track of it when everything is in a double, all the strings. So water, tea. What's another healthy drink? Coffee's not bad. Now let's do Powerade. Right. Recognize the word Powerade. Let's do. I'll leave it at that. That's fine. Junk food, right? Chips. Chocolate. All the good stuff. Junk drink, right, we'll do Coke. So there are two words here. Monster Energy, right? There is a gap between, but because it's all within single quotes, it's a string. It's still seen as one whole string. So white space doesn't matter with strings. You can see this dot here. I want to drag my mouse like this. A code editor will put a dot in each white space, so it's easy for me to see. But like I said, because it is one string, it doesn't have to be like this. That's fine with a gap. More human readable. Another great feature of Python. And beer, right? So, what can we do with these lists? We could do, let's have a look. We could take input from the user, which is kind of complicated for this part of Python, this far in anyway, but it's a cool feature. So how do we do this? We would do, let's do user choice, right? Equal input. We'd need an input from the user. And then we're going to ask them to type something in. We'll do healthy or junk. Question mark. And it's best to put a space after the question mark like this, or it can kind of look weird once it's printed out in the command line anyway, which is the terminal that I'm using here. It's the inbuilt terminal with VS Code. So, let me have a think. So then we need to tell the code what the user chose. So we'll do if user choice equals healthy. What do we want to do? We will do print statement, and then we'll use our random.choice method. Open it up. Where do we want the random.choice to look through? Healthy, right? We'll do healthy drink. Try that out. Look. Healthy or junk? I want healthy. Water. Perfect. So what's the code doing? It's asking for an input. These are all predefined, so the user would not see these in theory. They would not know what the choices were. If this was going to be made into a real program, not just a command line example like this. The code is looking for an input of a string, and then the if statement will run if the user choice input equals healthy, print a random choice from a healthy drink. What's healthy drink? Healthy drink is our predefined list data type, and these are the two choices. This time it went water. Right again. Perfect. This time tea. So you can see this could change every time. And once again, the more items you have in here, the more variety and variability there will be in the choices. How can we make this even better? Let me have a think. Let's try and add. Let's see what happens if we do add or plus. Healthy drink. Sorry, healthy food. What happens here? Healthy or junk? Healthy. Nothing prints out. apple. So it is printing out, but only from the food, only from this one, apple. So let me try it again. Kale. So it's only working on this, on the healthy food. So how could we get around this error? Let me have a think. I'm figuring this out as I go along. So if the user choice is healthy, print random choice healthy drink. So we could separate the if statements to make it a bit more readable. You could do this as a whole if else elif statement. But we'll do a separate one. So if user choice equals junk, we want to print a random choice random choice from, we're doing drinks here, so from junk drinks. Right, let's try this. Healthier junk, I want junk. There we go, Coke. Let me just test it again to make sure it's not just printing the first item. Junk, Coke. Try it again. Junk, Coke. Try it again. Beer, there we go. So it wasn't just Coke, that's perfect. This is what you have to do sometimes. You have to run code over and over, have a read through of any errors that you do get, and then it'll give you some better context. Sorry, it'll give you some better context to understand the issue. So, let me have a think. This works, right? So, how can we add these together? Because we want to pick a junk drink. So we're doing drinks, sorry, a junk drink and junk food. So, if choice is junk, let me have a look. Need to think about this for a second. This is the learning process. So we could try. I think we need to differentiate these two. So we're doing drinks here, so use a drink choice. If user choice equals healthy, print random choice healthy drink. You just see this. So obviously it's printing. This was just a test to see what would happen. It's printing junk, because that's the value of user choice in this scenario, because I apply this input. It does the first line, prints the junk drink, which is Coke in this case, and then it prints user choice again, junk. So we could do if user food choice. This would probably be a better way to do it. Let's call this drink choice. better to differentiate the two. Let me just see if that still works actually. Oops. Yep. Perfect. So they still work, right? I've named these drink choice to make it a bit more accurate. So then we can do if user food choice is healthy, what do we want to do? Oh, sorry. If user... So yeah, I missed out this part. User food choice. We need an input, right? Before that. So we need to do healthy food or junk food. Then I want to make sure to add my space. Like that. If user food choice is healthy, what do we want to do? We want to print a random dot choice from healthy food, right? Our list. Healthy food. So, healthy or junk drink? Junk. Give me beer. Awesome. Healthy or junk food? I've only coded the healthy part, so I'll have to try that first. Healthy. Try again. There we go. Junk drink, Coke. Healthy food, kale. Now we can combine both of them, as you can see. It looks a bit messy, and it's quite a lot of code just to do a kind of a simple task when you think about it. But it's the perfect way to visualize what's actually happening with the code. Remember, Python reads code line by line. So we're declaring all of this, these lists. The code knows, right? This is the healthy food list with these items. Healthy drink list, these items, and so on. And then obviously, it starts with the inputs. Drink choice healthy, drink choice junk. So last thing we're missing is this part, but for food. So if user food choice is junk, the unhealthy version, what do we want to do? Once again, we want to print a random choice, and we can use this because we've imported our random library. Top. Remove that, ignore that. This is the important thing. Print a random.choice from, what are we doing? It's junk food, right? What do we call the junk food list? We call it simply junk food. Here we go. So, the code. I want, actually I want a healthy drink today. Tea. Healthy or junk food? I want to be healthy as well with my food. Why did that not work? Have a look. The code. Healthy. Healthy. There we go. So the code is now suggesting water and kale. Because my input exactly matched the string here, right? If my food choice, taking the input, is healthy, run this code. If it's junk, run this code. And this code and this line are exactly the same, as you can see. The only difference is where are they pulling the data from. Just two different lists, right? Healthy, this one, and this one. Awesome. So that is basically how you can link if statements, and you could do this a lot nicer and a lot more succinct using if and else statements. That's a bit more complicated, and I'll move on to that in another video in the future. But for now, I think I'll leave it here. So as you can see, we're using our lists. We learned about lists the other day. That was our little color list. And now we're doing some more complex things with these lists, right? We're taking input from a user, and then we're running our conditionals, right? And we're using comparison with the equals, and then our equals equals. And you remember the equals equals is exactly the same, so the input must match this. If it doesn't, it'll throw an error. So let's do healthy with a small h, not a capital. It didn't work. Do it again. Didn't work. Do it with capital. Do junk, capital J, chocolate. Ooh. And the code again. Junk, capital J, Coke, junk, capital J. Have a look here. Don't see why that shouldn't work. There we go. It does work. I just needed to save the code. So Coke and cookies with capital J. So the string is being input exactly with double equal sign, and then we're using the random library with the dot choice function. Well, dot choice variable, I should say. And then we're inputting or passing in the data type that we want it to collect from, which are our predefined lists. Pretty cool. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll leave it here. I hope to do another video tomorrow, and we'll probably, I think I'll make this code a bit more human readable, a bit less messy. I'll probably link if else statements together and move on to some other Python data types. Bye now.